Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing Make Your Ex Feel Regret. Flip the narrative. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing Make Your Ex Feel Regret. Flip the narrative. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will need to flip the script on their opinion of you. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 important ways you can change your ex's thoughts. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is if your ex says to you, you've let yourself go. So if you've heard your ex-dumper say to you, hey, you've let yourself go, then this is something which is obviously going to be very hurtful, very painful. Maybe this is something that you absolutely disagree with. Perhaps instead, you can somewhat see where they're coming from, but it doesn't mean it's any less hurtful. The good news is that either way, we can do something about it. We can always take a positive step in the right direction and flip the script by changing the perception of how your ex-dumper views you by making sure we live a healthy life. Make sure you eat healthy. Make sure that you get enough sleep. Make sure that you reduce bad substances in your life, and make sure that you get enough exercise. With that last one being said, I'd like you to now give me 5 sit-ups or 5 press-ups. And I'm not kidding. Unless you're in a situation that is absolutely impossible to do, maybe you're out and about and it's just not something that you could do right now. If you're at home listening, then why don't you do this? Sit-ups, press-ups, these are things we can do in a very small space. You can do it in your home. You don't need a gym membership. A lot of people say to me, I want to get into shape, but I can't afford the gym. Well, listen, you don't need to go to the gym to get into shape. Yes, it might make things somewhat easier. Yes, there is the equipment, the support, everything which can connect to a routine perhaps, which might make things a little easier for you in that regard, but you don't need it. You can get fit and healthy just from being at home. So don't use that as an excuse. If you've been told that you've let yourself go, no, that's not nice to hear. You don't want to hear that. But if you want to get your ex back, we need to change the narrative. They believe you let yourself go. Now, you might disagree, you might agree, but there is no reason why you can't get healthy. There is no reason why you can't look your best, be your best, and feel your best. And if we get healthy, the byproduct is that we increase physical attraction that people feel towards us. We become more physically attractive when we're healthy. So make sure you eat healthy. Make sure you get enough sleep. Make sure you remove those bad substances from your life, and make sure you get enough exercise. And as I said, I'm not kidding. If you are in a reasonable position right now, give me 5 sit-ups. Give me 5 press-ups. Why not? You should be doing this. You should be doing this or something very similar, because we can always improve. And it shouldn't even be for our ex. It should be for ourselves. Do it for you, and the byproduct is that your ex-dumper will likely start to find you more physically attractive, which is one of the main pillars towards why somebody wants to be with us in a romantic relationship. And today is about flipping the narrative, flipping the script. If your ex-dumper said, hey, you've let yourself go, I'm just being honest, I no longer find you physically attractive. Well, let's flip the script. Let's change that narrative, and let's make sure that the next time they see you, they think, wow, you are incredible. Now, today's podcast is all about flipping the narrative, but the main reason for this is to try and create a sense of regret in your ex-dumper's mind. They aren't going to feel regret if they believe you're the exact same person that they dumped. Whether we like it or whether we totally disagree with the concept, if your ex-dumper is your ex-dumper, it means they ended the relationship. They've ended things, okay? Whether you like it or not, That is the situation. If you want them back, you must be different to the person that they dumped. That's the reality. If you are the same person that they dumped, they are not going to want to reconnect with you. I believe it was Einstein that said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You need to change things up. You need to do different things. We need to make sure that you flip the narrative in their mind. And that is what's going to increase the chance of them feeling regret because they see the changes that you've made and therefore increasing the chance of one day getting your ex back. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is if your ex-dumper has said to you, you're stuck in a rut. Now if your ex-dumper has said to you, you're stuck in a rut, this can be something which is sometimes a bit confusing. What does this actually mean? But one of the ways that we can try and attribute this is generally it does connect to a lack of motivation and potentially a lack of ambition. And being ambitious is a very attractive trait. We've just been speaking previously about physical attraction, about being healthy. Well, being ambitious is really healthy and attractive from a position of mindset rather than body. And it's just as important, if not even more important, to some people when they consider what they find attractive. So if you believe that you are stuck in a rut, or maybe you've been accused of that, and you think, well, am I? Have I? Is this something that I've fallen into? Well, let's ask yourself this question. Do you have goals for the future? What is your goal for the next 6 months? What's your goal for the next 3 years? Do you have any? If you don't, then you need to get them pretty quick. If you want to try to get your ex back, you can't be in a rut. If you want to try and find somebody better than your ex, you can't be living in a life where you're not moving forward. If you stagnate, in essence, you're actually going backwards. And this isn't going to attract anybody, let alone your ex, who unfortunately has already dumped you. We're trying to re-attract someone and change their perception. We're trying to flip the narrative. We're trying to change how they view us. You need to increase your ambition. And I know that comes from motivation, but if you can't get motivated to increase your ambition by trying to get your ex back, then I don't know what you can do. You need to try and use all of those negative emotions, all of those feelings deep inside you that don't seem to be helping you in any kind of way, and bundle them all together, screw them up into a ball, and use them as rocket fuel to motivate you forward. You need to be ambitious. You need a plan. You need a goal for the rest of this week, let alone for a few months' time and beyond. If you don't have a goal, you don't have a purpose, you don't have a focus, you don't have an aim of where you're going to get to, this isn't attractive. It's not just not attractive to anybody, but it's likely to really decrease your mental and physical well-being. If you have nothing to strive for, we do tend to let ourselves go. And this is what I was talking about in point number 1. You've let yourself go. That probably goes hand in hand with the fact you have no motivation, no ambition, and no effort being put into moving forward in your life. This is something we need to change. And we can do it one step at a time. Now, I'm trying to build the greatest, most positive breakup community online. I want to know what you think about breakup communities online. Who do you think has the best? How do you think my channel compares? What can I do better? Let me know in the YouTube comments, and give this video a like if you are enjoying what you're listening to, and if you are finding it motivational, give it a like so I know that we're on the right track. If you don't give me feedback, I'm not really sure how well it is improving you, and I want to do that. I want to take you to the next level. So help me find out if that is exactly what's happening. So before we close off point number 2, let's get a pen and a piece of paper. Let's type up something on your notes and let's start setting goals. At least let's get one in for now. Tell me a goal that you want to achieve within the next week. It's obviously a very short-term goal. Write it down for yourself, but also let me know in the comments. This is something we can do to try and encourage one another to get to that goal. It's a very short-term goal. I'm just saying something you're going to do by the end of this week, something you can take action on right now. But if you don't take action today, listen, tomorrow never comes. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is if your expert dumper has said to you, "You're too boring. You're boring me. This is why I'm no longer in a relationship. I don't want to be with you right now because you're boring." Now, if you've heard this as a dumpee, you are likely to be very, very offended. Now, some of you might think, well, what's there to be offended about? It's just a few words, it's just an opinion. But this can really tie into who we feel we are as a person. If somebody refers to us as boring, it makes us feel like we're not offering anything to the world. It makes us feel like we're not very interesting, we're not very intelligent, we're not very articulate, we're not very good at communicating, we're not funny. All of these things could be connected to that comment. Now, what could you do if you want to try and change that perception? Remember, we're all about today flipping the script, changing the dumper thoughts, updating their mindset towards you with something better, flipping that narrative. We want to create regret in your expert dumper's mind, and they're not going to feel regret unless we change their perception. And therefore, it's really important that we change the perception if they are suggesting that you're boring. So what can you do? Well, this is where you need to go out into the world and try new things. And the rule of thumb is, if you try something new that you really don't want to do, that is probably something really positive for you. Now, of course, please use your common sense. When I say you don't want to do, I don't mean it's because you're saying to yourself, I don't want to do this, it's dangerous. I'm not talking about doing something reckless or stupid. No, I'm talking about trying new things that perhaps you ordinarily wouldn't want to do because maybe you feel a bit awkward, maybe a bit shy, a bit embarrassed. Maybe you don't feel confident enough to join a new class, group or club, but you really need to. This is how we improve. This is how we grow. This is how we can become more interesting and less boring. When somebody says we're boring, it's mainly because we have nothing to say. We don't want to do anything. If you experience new situations, if you do new things with new people, not only are you broadening your horizons and therefore becoming less boring, but on top of that, you will have something to speak about. Now, there's nothing worse than sitting around over the dinner table and you and your partner have nothing to tell one another because you haven't done anything. Or perhaps you always did the same things together. If that's the case, once again, you're going to find it really hard to have great conversations because you've been together 24/7 perhaps. That is why some people who work with their partners find it challenging because there's nothing to speak about. Similarly, people who overtext, they text too much. They're texting all day, every day, even if they're not with their partner, even if they don't live together. There is nothing to speak about when they finally meet up because everything's been said in a text. You've got to leave a bit of wonder, a bit of mystery, even within your partner, to have that conversation, to be less boring, to be more interesting. So take that first step. My challenge to you today, right now, as soon as this podcast ends, is to look for a new class, group or club in your local area and actually sign up. Or at the very least, send an email, make a call, make an inquiry. If you aren't doing this, then how can anybody expect you to be interesting to them? Nobody's going to find you interesting if you don't want to try and change the perception. If you've been accused of being boring, that's the problem. The problem is you're not trying new things, you're not doing different things. Certainly, they think they know you inside and out, and it's time to surprise them in a nice, of course, positive way, but surprise them by doing something new. Because if you don't, you'll regret it. And we're not trying to make you regret something. We want your expert dumper to regret ending your connection.